Okay, we're back live broadcasting online and we are recording. So council met in camera, provided direction to senior management and they will be undertaking that direction. So number 5 on the agenda is the consent agenda. And the next motion that comes forward is moved by Councillor Foti, seconded by Councillor Jameson, that June 6, 2022 public meeting minutes be adopted as circulated, that the May 9th, 2022 council meeting minutes, May 16th, 2022 special council meeting minutes, and the June 6, 2022 committee of the whole meeting minutes be adopted as circulated, and that the April 26, 2022 committee of adjustment meeting minutes be received and filed. Any comments, questions, queries? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And carried. Thank you. Next is number 7, staff reports, moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Councillor Jameson. The council approved staff reports as recommended at the June 6, 2022 committee of the whole meeting minutes. So there are a number of staff reports. Are there any that need to be pulled, or are they now you would be, this is where I got confused earlier when I was looking at Councillor Foti's conflict. There's a different 7.5. That's right. So any comments or questions in regards to that? Go ahead, Councillor Rowe.
Just one quick question on the 7.6, the operations report for Lansdowne serviced areas. I'm sure it's an easy one. It seems when I read the what we're wanting to do, it was dealing with water and water only. Is that correct? And number 2, I can't quite remember what was said with respect to wastewater. So the question is, if we did just the water, will we also need in the future to do a wastewater study? And should we not then and therefore just combine them up in what we've come up with here?
Go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship. So we are focusing primarily right now on water.
Mhm.
The reason for that is that they said that there is a 10-year lifespan, and
Yep.
the sanitary system will be triggered by development. And we're looking at, I think 39 was our trigger point for the next upgrade required for the sanitary. And without any large development, it's going to take a long period of time before we achieve that 39. So that's why we're focusing primarily right now on the water. And then we will look at the sanitary as a separate one in future, driven by development.
So there's really no sense in combining them. Is that the way I'm hearing that, Dave? There's
At
no
this
sense
point.
at this point.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're satisfied the water's the one that needs to be dealt with in the municipal environmental assessment, right?
Yes.
And it's good for 10 years?
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, the director of planning is just saying that the development south of the tracks may still be interested in moving forward as well. So consideration will be given for that
At
Okay.
that time.
when we're taking going through this process.
Thank you very much.
Any other quick questions before we move forward and approve the staff reports? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Thank you. Number 8, information items. There was one letter that was sent to us in regards to rural communities and funding development from sitting on my desk. It's not here at this desk. So is there any questions or comments in regards to that? It's just calling upon the minister to provide more funding. Go ahead, Councillor Guerrero.
I think that the information item was mislabeled. It says, I'm going to read this into the record here. Where is it here?
It's the letter from the Ministry of Rural Economic Development
It's
Federal funding?
actually.
from the shadow cabinet.
Yes, so it's not actually,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, let me back it up here. Here it is. It says in our agenda, it's a letter from Ministry of Rural Economic Development. It is not. It is a letter from the shadow cabinet. 2 members of which are written on that letter are from Alberta, and the third one is from Quebec. So in terms of, they're doing a little fishing. And I would like to set the record straight that I don't think that they understand that the rural broadband program in Ontario is underway. So for them in this letter to make a suggestion that nothing has been said in Ontario, they're out of touch. Ontario is clearly, like it or not, on a direction that has been clearly stated. I've heard it stated by the minister 3 times. And even EORN had to respect it in a meeting, I think, with the county recently. So this letter is simply a shadow cabinet. It is not from any ministry. Thank you very much.
Yes. So the error is in the item on the agenda. I see what you're asking and requesting. We'll have that changed. But the motion that's coming forward is that the information be received and filed. And the motion comes from Councillor Jameson and Councillor Maybe. But the point that the councillor made in regards to that, we can have that amended. So at least it reflects the correct source. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And carried. Okay. You can have your. Thank you. Unfinished business, number 6 on the agenda. Any unfinished business? Unfinished business. Go ahead, Councilor Maybe.
Thank you, Worshipman, through you. Again, just bringing up the 401 light again. Just I have to keep doing it because I want that light. And I have, there's people in our township who feel as strongly as I do that it needs to be there. So, and I know that we have everybody's backing but MTO. So anyways, I just bring it forward one more time. Thank you.
And I believe that it's duly noted by the Director of Operations, and hopefully the next time we meet with MTO, we can bang on that drum again. So any other unfinished business? Seeing none, we'll go to number 7, action items. So moved by Councillor Olkey, seconded by Councillor Gorell, that the council authorize mayor and clerk to execute on behalf of the township a lease with Versailles Construction and Designing for the rental of 5 contractor boat slips and 5 parking spaces in the town of Gananoque for an amount of $8,960. Motion is now on the floor. Any comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Gorell.
Thank you. And through you, Your Worship. I noticed that this agreement ends October 31, I think, of this year. So in that we don't have anything going forward, should we make the contractors aware that this is, and make them very aware that this is as far as we've gotten with this agreement, and we are uncertain moving into the future, just because we had a little situation, I think, where we didn't feel people were notified. So if we could just make sure everyone's on the same page, that'd be fine, and address it next year, I guess, if that's
fair.
what Versailles Construction and Design wishes.
Okay,
Thank you.
noted. Any other comments or questions in regards to the motion at hand? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Next motion is 7.2 Operations Report SR-087-22 Award of Contract Request for Proposals OPS-2022-008 Water and Wastewater Operations. Motion comes forward from Councillor Gorell, Councillor Olkey, and seconded by Councillor Gorell, that the council declare that the Ontario Clean Water Agency is a successful proponent in respect to the request for proposal OPS RFP OPS-2022-008 for the operation and maintenance systems of distribution and collection systems for water and wastewater facilities, and award a contract accordingly. Discussion on this motion. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. The one thing that I noticed in this one and some others previously that have come to the table is that we see the proponent who's won the bid, but we don't see number 2 and 3 to know who they are more than anything. And I don't know whether there's a change in policy in that process.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. I noticed when it came to the township that we're publishing names and pricing, and that generally is commercially confidential information that belongs to the particular proponent. So we started just identifying them by vendor 2, vendor 3 in order to protect their privacy and their pricing. And it does reflect kind of a best practice, and it respects the privacy and commercially confidential information of the vendors.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And carried. Thank you for your work on that, Director. I know that we hadn't gone out to tender on that for a while, so it was good that we did that. 7.3 Operations Report SR-089-22 Award of Contract OPS-2022-1011 Supply and Mixing of Winter Sand. Moved by Councillor Olkey, seconded by Councillor Grell, that council authorize staff to award tender OPS-2022-011 with the supply and mixing of winter sand to G. Tackaberry and Sons Construction Company Limited in the amount of $164,963.14, inclusive of net HST. Any comments or questions on the motion? Actually clear as sand and salt. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? And we're carrying. And next, we would ask that Councillor Foti leave the room, which he is. Thank you, Councillor Foti. Motion that's coming on the floor is moved by Councillor Grell, seconded by Councillor Olkey, that the council approve the recommendation of the Economic Development Committee to reallocate up to $4,000 from the EDC budget that was intended for a demand study for an abattoir to allocate $1,000 each to the Rockport Development Group, Sealy's Bay Area Residents Association, Lansdowne Association for Revitalization, and Lyndhurst Rejuvenation Committee based on the estimates of the group's community beautification projects. Discussion on this motion. Go ahead.
I understand why this is coming forward. I appreciate the sentiment. I'm just not sure why we're in a situation where we're reallocating from one thing to another. Where if that money was not spent, it would lapse and go into the general fund or go somewhere to be used next year. So it's not a question of being for or against, it's a question of process, and committees are assigned certain tasks. And one wonders why they have any money to begin with, but I'm just a little confused from a procedural standpoint, not from the intent.
Okay,
That's my.
so I'll let the director speak to that.
Thank you, through you. At the Economic Development Committee, they were discussing what they could do to have some impact prior to the end of their tenure as the Economic Development Committee under this council, recognizing that there was $5,000 budgeted for this study, that based on staff's research, there was no need to pursue at this point in time because it's a bigger issue than something at the local level. They decided that they wanted to hear from the peer groups. One of the members on the Economic Development Committee brought forward some ideas about local initiatives in terms of lower level initiatives in each of the settlement areas. And in doing that, they had a joint meeting with the peer committee and had a discussion with some of the peer members to bring this up and see what the options might be. The reasoning for that being that the EDC wanted to feel that something was accomplished within the short period of time before the end of this council term. So that was the rationale.
And just to add to that, the pillars that the Economic Development Committee had identified, which was hospitality, housing, and agriculture. How did I forget that one? But that because the funding, it was a small amount, but like Ms. Venditti said, they wanted to see it go to something that, and because the peer groups who had met were struggling with regenerating, recharging, doing more things, that the money would be better allocated there. And due to our process, it had to come back to council for reallocation. Because it's going from two different budgets. that's it. Sorry. And
Doesn't,
then,
doesn't answer or speak to my point, which is not the value of what is being done here, because I'm familiar with the two projects in the north, and that makes a lot of sense to me. I just think it's basically kind of moving the community grant program somewhere else for a minute without the matrix and the staff assessment that we would have had with the community grants. So I will vote in favor of this because I want to have a home to go to. But also, I'm just saying, as we go down the road and the next council looks at structures and budgets with respect to committees, my hope is that things go through the matrix, because I think that works really well.
I think I
And
see your
that's my
point now.
only point.
Okay,
So-
and that is a fair assessment. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And through you, your worship, I wholeheartedly agree with Councillor Jameson, because I thought part of these groups is that we were not, as council, not helping them with capital projects and, or as far as, sorry, not capital, but operating expenses.
This
So-
is not going towards operating. These are specific projects in each of the hamlets. So go ahead, Ms. Venditti.
Thank you. Through you, just to clarify, in the budget, each of the groups were awarded $3,000, I believe, for different expenses as each of the settlement area groups. This $1,000 that they're each being recommended to be through the Economic Development Committee is towards beautification projects. So they brought forward ideas in terms of extending the Quilt Square trail and those types of things. There were different ideas that were discussed. One of the points in the recommendation is that if they don't use the money, that it be returned to the township. I don't disagree with the comments that through the community grants application, there's a scoring matrix, there's an accounting framework. But it was the opinion of the Economic Development Committee that this was a quick win in terms of contributing to these groups that are having some volunteer burnout, that are haven't had the fundraising over the past 2 years, so that it might be something to help them get on their feet as a one-time transfer.
And this is a one-time thing. So. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. So the next item on the agenda, 7.5, moved by Councillor Olkey, and it can't be separate, seconded by Councillor Bodie. Can I have a seconder on that, please? Deputy Mayor? Okay. The council recommend to the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville that the county investigate installing 3 crosswalks in the village of Lansdowne, 2 crosswalks in the village of Sealy's Bay, and 2 crosswalks in the village of Lyndhurst as part of the county's active transportation plan. And that council further recommend to the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville that the county explore the installation of a park bench located across from the village of Lansdowne Fresh Mart as part of their design for the intersection for County Road 3, Prince Street, and King Street. And that council advised the county that the township will contribute up to $1,500 towards the cost of the bench at this location within the county road allowance. And that the council approved the reallocation of $1,500 from 2022 economic development operating budget for this purpose. Discussion on the motion. Go ahead. Same comment, different motion?
No, different. No, well, is there studies attached to your worship? Are there studies attached to the positioning of the crosswalks?
No.
And let me just say, this is going to be an interesting conversation on the streets of Sealy's Bay tomorrow. Lansdowne, yeah, I get it. And certainly Lyndhurst, because of the truck traffic
Mhm.
alone, but where are we going to put them in Sealy's Bay?
I think, I think as the motion indicates, it's supposed to be considered as part of the active transportation plan that the county is undertaking right now. So it would be up to the consultant who's working for the county to come back with some suggestions of what might work, and they are obligated to consult with the villages accordingly.
So they would study the traffic patterns in order to find out.
I believe that is the that is the goal of that particular active transportation. plan.
Well, I'm going to buy a third car.
You turkey. Anyway, Councillor Correll and then Deputy Mayor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Oh.
Through you, we talked a lot about that, relocating that intersection. But we also talked about the removal and replacement of hydro poles down the main street. Where is county with that?
Director of Operations can answer that. They had a meeting last week.
Thank you. Through your worship. I had a conversation with Melanie Knowles from the county last week, obviously as part of our discussion. And they suggested that as part of the Lansdowne master plan, that we start approaching hydro now and having discussions with them about burying the hydro poles. The county proposed that it's so the Hydro One pays for 50% of it. The municipality typically only pays for 50% of the relocation of the poles. And the county suggested that we share that cost between the county and the township. So that's where it's at
25%.
right now, up for discussion. We can have the preliminary discussions with Hydro to get a sense of what the cost is and go from there.
Well, that's the furthest I think we've been with that discussion in quite some time. So just for interest's sake, Director Holiday convened a lot of our counterparts for Director of Operations throughout the county, along with county representatives here last Wednesday to talk about a number of different challenges and ongoing communication with the county in regards to operations. Oh, sorry. I haven't called the question on this, so I can't have them in. So the point being is that it was a very productive conversation and there was many points that were viewed. So just as an aside for that, and including the realignment of the top of the hill in Lansdowne. So,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, sorry, you have something to add?
Based on it a little bit.
Just, I'll ask Councillor Gorell to add his comments. Go ahead.
I was just curious about this bench across from the Fresh Mart. What corner are we thinking?
Right near the fire hydrant is essentially where it is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you just wanted to be clear on which corner it was on?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
It's-
is that a county initiative then to put that there?
it would be. The request is to,
And in that it is active transportation, should we put a bike rack next to it?
well, and that it would be up for discussion with them.
Thank you.
So one of the other things, just as another addendum that was discussed at economic development, was the fact of the state of the retaining wall in Lansdowne that is in quite bad disrepair. And that is in the county road allowance as well. So, but the good thing is, because of the formalization of this motion coming through to county, provided that it passes, that it provides further discussion and paper trail to make sure that something gets done with that. So go ahead.
Sorry, we're not going to spend more time on this than some of the big numbers. But what the heck? You mentioned the retaining wall. It raises, I think I already know the answer to the question. The Furnace Falls Bridge is a Parks Canada. Furnace-
The Lyndhurst Bridge.
The Lyndhurst
Stone-
Bridge, yes.
The Stone Bridge?
Yeah. yeah.
Stone Bridge is a county asset.
Is it a county asset? Because the stones are falling off it.
Yes, they are
And-
aware and
okay.
they have had 2 years of,
Being made
Anyway.
aware.
no, they awarded the contract and then canceled the contract for 2 years. Anyways, so I'll let the director actually speak to that because he would have some knowledge, and then just I'll call the question and then you can come forward. That's fine. All those in favor of the motion at hand, all those opposed, carried. If somebody could go and grab Councillor Foti. So Director, you have something to share there?
Yes. So I've spoken with the county about this project. They have engaged TSI, who does the OSIM inspections for the county. And they're in the design process right now with expectations to rehabilitate that bridge shortly.
I think that they were going in with a cosmetic job and I think they had a reconsideration, perhaps, is what happened once they got going. So we cannot lose our beautiful bridge and needs to be well taken care of. So anyways, next item on the agenda is 7.6, planning report SR 09222, new building position, building septic inspector. Moved by Counselor Olkey, seconded by Counselor Fody. The council approve the permanent full-time building inspector position to be funded within the current 2022 approved building department operating budget. And that the council approve a budget allocation of up to $5,000 to lease a vehicle to support the septic inspection function for the balance of 2022, with future lease payments to be included in the building department operating budget for subsequent years. Discussion on the motion. Pretty straight. Oh, okay. Counselor maybe, and then Counselor Jameson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. So with this position, it is the goal in the future, possibly that it's a net zero, that we collect enough fees to actually cover the cost, which is like the whole building department anyway. So yes.
That is correct. Counselor Jameson?
To the extent that, having read the report a couple of times, I'm not seeing anywhere here, unless I missed it, that the county is writing a check to us to help us in the transition, because clearly we will incur costs without any revenue for a period of time. It's just not
So
possible to break even on this.
it's not the county, it's the health unit.
Well,
The health unit.
I'd like
I'm
to
just-
see us get a check from somebody, Your Worship. And
So
why can't we ask?
the existing permits will continue to be managed and maintained at the health unit. We will only be administering or processing new building permits after they've pushed it out till October 1st.
October 1st.
So we have an extra month, thankfully, to prepare. So we're not taking on their old files. Does that make sense, Counselor Jameson? That doesn't make sense to you?
No, it doesn't make sense. I understand that,
Okay.
and we're not. The issue for me, and I'm quite serious about this, is this has been pushed down. Okay, and I know it's being done all over the place, so I accept all that. But with that, there is no support for the transition and how much staff time has been spent that, we need to look at what it costs us to have our management staff prepare all of this and get all this work done. This is lost time and money. And we should be getting a check from the county, the health unit, from whomever to support this transition. And I know I'm waving my hands in the air for no point, but I just think it needs to be made. Thank you.
Director Venditti, you think the chances of that are fairly good? Not likely, unfortunately. But the point is well taken, Counselor Jameson, is that when the downloading happens, even when downloading happened in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was money for transition that was brought forward from the provincial government for their divestation of things like paramedic services and what have you. So, but not the case in this particular. But I will make your point known with the chair of the health unit board, Doug Malenka. So motion still remains on the floor. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Next item on the docket is number 7.7, planning report SR 093-22, request for extension of draft plan of subdivision approval, Greens Electric Plumbing and Heating Limited, part of lots 19 and 20, concession 1. Motion reads that, moved by Counselor Olkey, seconded by Counselor Fody. Council support the request from FO10 Planning and Design for a 1-year extension for draft approval of the plan of subdivision submitted by Greens Electric Plumbing and Heating Limited. Discussion on this motion. Go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship, is there any need whatsoever for any public consultation? It looks like it's right next door to Fox Run, if I'm reading my map correctly. 1-year extension certainly isn't a long time. However, this looks like it's been on the books for a very long time. And I just wondered whether we need to review any public input. Thank you.
Through your worship, you're correct. This is a updated draft plan of subdivision. There was discussion at the county 3 years ago in terms of whether or not to renew this. At that time, there was a 3-year renewal granted and an update to the draft plan conditions to bring them up to current policy requirements. Through that, there would have been a public circulation of the amended conditions of draft plan approval. One thing I would note is that with the updated conditions of draft plan approval, there's a need for updated environmental impact studies. There's going to be a relotting of the subdivision based on the natural heritage features on the property, being the environmentally protected areas, the water courses, and those types of things. So what will come forward through this is a requirement for a zoning bylaw amendment. That zoning bylaw amendment will require public circulation and a public meeting. So there will be public consultation built into the process when they come forward for final plan approval.
That would be potentially, well, no, I guess if we're only giving them a 1-year extension, it's all going to be compressed into that. No.
Yes, it's going to be a tight process. So the way the process works, they've got the draft plan conditions that essentially say you can have this subdivision subject to meeting all of these criteria. One of those criteria is going to be a zoning amendment. And speaking with the consultant, they need to, so the lapsing date is September. The renewal date would be 1 year from September. So that would take us to September 2023. Within that timeframe, the zoning amendment would need to come forward and they need to do all of their detailed engineering and design. So in that time frame, there's a lot of pieces that need to come together, but there will be a public component to the recirculation of the zoning application.
Thank you. Okay, any further comments or questions in regards to the subdivision? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the motion. All those in favor? All those opposed? And carried. Next, 7.8 Administration Report SR-068-22 Potential Restricted Acts Lame Duck Council Period. Motion comes forward from Council Garel, seconded by Council Olkey. The council grant 3 readings and final passage to bylaw number 22-037, being a bylaw to delegate certain authorities during a restricted authority, quote unquote, lame duck council period. Any comments, questions? Okay, I think it's fairly straightforward. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. And next item is 7.9, Councillor Jameson addressing post-pandemic youth programs needs in Ward 2. Motion comes forward from Councillor Fody and seconded by Councillor Olkey, whereas health agency reports point to increased health and wellness challenges for our young people coming out of the pandemic. And whereas council has approved financial support for established and respected youth programs to link Gananoque, Lansdowne, and Brockville. And whereas the catchment school for a great number of both the Township of Leeds and Thousand Islands Ward 2 students and the Township of Rideau Lakes is the Rideau District High School located in Elgin. And whereas both the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands and the Township of Rideau Lakes undertake a variety of recreation and library programs with a youth focus, and both have representatives on the North Leeds Youth Coordinating Committee working out of the Rideau Lakes District High School. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the council directs staff to liaise with counterparts in the Township of Rideau Lakes with a view to identifying partnerships and student-focused programming that maximize to serve youth program needs in the Rideau Lakes District High School catchment area and bring recommendations to council in the near future. Comments or questions on the motion? Go ahead, Councillor Olkey.
Just to note that there was an incident of vandalism in Lyndhurst today that hit county road signs. It hit township signs and private business signs. The youth has been apprehended, but it was somebody who was out of school for the day. And whatever possessed the young lad to do this, people in the village are requesting help from the township to clean it up, remove paint and stuff. It was blue spray paint. It just sort of underscores that youth is maybe having a hard time readjusting to normal life, or what passed for normal life. Thank you.
Previously, fair enough. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 7.10, Counselor Olkey, potential investments for reserve funds, moved by Counselor Olkey, seconded by Counselor Fode. Whereas the prudent management of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands funds has resulted in significant increase of the financial reserves. And whereas portions of these reserve funds will not be required for immediate use. And whereas it is prudent to acquire some interest on these funds via investment holdings, investment instruments allowed for lower tier government reserve holdings. And now therefore be it resolved, council direct staff to investigate potential investments for holding the township's reserve funds. Any comments or questions? Fairly straightforward again. All those in favor? All those opposed? And carried. Okay. Next on the items of it on our agenda is mayor's update. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to the students who have worked diligently to clean up the No Mow May, as it would be. As it's, I really am struggling to how to address this, but we tried something here at the township, and I believe I spoke to this item last week, but I'll say it again. We tried something and it wasn't popular. There was lots of documentation as to why it would be good for the environment, and some of the things that many people are concerned with is climate change and what have you. And we made that choice and received a number of complaints. I know that I did personally. I know the township did, as well as other counselors. You don't learn unless you fail. So I think that it was, if it was just a matter of raking up grass, there's no harm or foul. Nobody got hurt, other than maybe some of the students who have blisters on their hands that work so hard to do it. We know how people feel for next year, and we have taken that to heart. So just to say that. The other thing that I wanted to let everybody know who may be watching is that should anybody have an inquiry with the township, that when they reach out to us, we hope that you get a live body. Should you not get a live body, your voicemail goes directly to an email system, and it is logged. So if people think that they are not getting responses, whether it be from myself or council members or staff, I guess you don't have your direct extensions here, but the best way to reach anybody is to call and leave a message if you can't get a real body, but it is logged. And so the staff work very hard to make sure that everybody gets a response. And the report it function is a very good tool that we use, and it's a logging mechanism, and it is also how things get deployed throughout the township. So if anybody has a concern, a request, a pothole to be filled, a tree limb down on the side of the road, it goes automatically to that system and gets assigned. So not everybody knows that. And some people are wondering how somebody would maybe get back to them. That is the best possible way. There's a number of events that are coming up in the near future. I've been invited to attend the GISS grad for both grade 8 and grade 12 here at the end of the month on the 23rd and the 27th, something like that. So I'm proudly going to represent the township at both of those. And then July 1st, there will be Ribfest in Gananoque. I've also been asked to attend, as well as Sealy's Bay is July 3rd now this year for Canada Day celebrations. And they have secured an individual to come and help with the fireworks. I know there was great debate in regards to that on social media. The good news is that they were able to find an individual who could come and help out. The individuals, just for clarity, who used to do it for us on our fire service, have retired from being volunteer firefighters, and we don't have the correct licensing, not authorization, to run that program anymore. So I know there was a lot of conjecture about that, of whether the the township or the fire department wanted to do that, but it really comes down to a license and having coverage for that. So very excited to see the fireworks on July the 3rd. And I'm sure there's tons of other things happening. Oh, the Seniors Expo tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow, June 14th at the senior or at the community building. And I believe is it 1 or 2 p.m. to 2 until 8. Correct. So I'm going to go just because I can, even though I'm not quite at the senior level yet. So hopefully there's a good turnout for that. And hopefully we'll see some people there. So it's nice to be out and about and being around people again. Any other, I guess there's announcements here. Any notices of motion? Any notices of motion? No notices of motion. So we'll move on to announcements. Announcements, go ahead, Councillor Maybe, then Councillor Fody, and then Councillor Oki.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to go ahead with the Canada Day celebrations in Gananoque for the residents who are going to go to that. It's down at the Joelstone Park at this moment. It's changed venues twice now. The Rib Fest is around 1:30 in the on July 1st, and that's at the Recreation Center, not at the town park. So people, please go to the Recreation Center. Another thing that's coming back on September 18th, the Sunday, the Thousand Island Terry Fox Run at the Rockport Community Center. We're going to have a meeting within the next 2 weeks on that to get that started. So we look forward to having old faces show up and participate in the Terry Fox Run that has helped many people with the affliction and getting us closer to a cure. And that's kind of a fun thing and good to see it coming back and being new at the Rockport Community Center. The other thing is on Sunday, it is Father's Day. So congratulations to all the fathers that are here and happy Father's Day to all out in who are watching. And then one other question I had with the announcements was a volunteer appreciation, which typically at the end of council, we do have that. And I didn't know whether there's any information on that yet or whether it's going to take place.
Katie, do you have an update on that?
Save the date. It's on November 5th and further information to follow.
Okay, November 5th it is. Hold placeholder in your counter or in your calendar, I should say. It's obviously been a long day. I apologize. Any other oh, sorry, Councillor Fody and then Councillor Oki. My apologies.
Thank you, Your Worship. COVID has held back a number of things, as we all can relate to. I know you yourself worked on this, as did the Director of Operations. And now the residents can finally see the fruition of the work that both of you have done in the repairs of our railway crossings. Finally, we've seen the light. And I believe they're still working on Blue Mountain.
It's done.
It's done as well. So all 4 are now finished. Thank you.
Unfortunately, not to throw a cloud on it, but there's still a couple that need to be addressed, but the ones that see probably the most traffic have been addressed, and thankfully so. And we will pass along our thanks to CN for making this a priority. I don't know if it was their choice or if it was the federal government that pushed them to do it, but nonetheless, it's definitely going to be a much easier ride for all of our big trucks, our fire trucks, and our personal vehicles. So County Road 34 is still in need of some attention, as is Town Line over on the Scott or Maori-Town side. So that's County Road 34. Sorry. That's why I was like, so we will continue to harp on those 2 particular crossings until they get addressed. So, and Councillor Oki.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Speaking of youth things and coming out of COVID, I had the privilege of attending an assembly at Sweets Corner School today. It's the first assembly many of those children have had. My connection with it was with a literacy issue. And I don't have grandchildren yet, but now I want them even more. If anyone has any to spare.
Terry.
But it was I first became interested in that school, driving past, but we couldn't do much during COVID. And I was involved with the tree planting, and I was so impressed with the teachers and the children that I jumped at the chance to go to this assembly and be involved in it. And they really are doing a grand job. And that school has a sense of morale and purpose that is really wonderful to see. So I
Certainly
just thought
is.
I'd give them a shout out. Thank you.
Very nice. Any other announcements? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the bylaws. The motion comes forward from Counselor Maybe and seconded by Counselor Jameson that 3 readings, final passage be granted to bylaws to 22.028, 22-035, 22-036, 22-037, 22-038, 22-039, 22-040, 22-041, that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw 22-042, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands at its May 16th, 2022 special council meeting, June 6th committee of the whole meeting, and June 13th, 2022 council meeting. All those in favor? What? No?
I have a problem with bylaw 35 and 36. Still do.
Sorry. It is, unfortunately. Okay, so we'll have you as a nay. Okay, the motion is still carried. Okay, and the next item is non-debatable motion, which is a motion to adjourn, coming forward from Counselor Maybe, seconded by Counselor Jameson, that council adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.